Hello, gamers. What's up? It's been a while. I'm testing out a new recording setup that involves daisy chaining a bunch of wires together so that I don't actually have to say anything to my computer. That will hopefully work out for the foreseeable future because we're working on a bit of a holdup with one of the fandubs, and that's kept me from making some of the stuff I wanted to make on the internet in the past couple of months. But yeah, I've recently gotten back into this huge Fire Emblem kick. I replayed, I started with Sacred Stones, played it on a whim, because of this little YouTube channel named Booty Bopper, which is like climbing the ranks of FE Tube right now. And I'm mostly aping his style for this because I think it'd be fun. But I just beat Conquest today. I was planning on doing this for a while, so I didn't actually know it would be this day before I started recording. But yeah, I beat Conquest, and I wanted to make a little tier list of all the characters here, since they're still all swirling around in my head right now. And I have an insomniac friend who says he can go to sleep if and only if he's listening to me speak about something he does not care about. And I figured, hey, what the fuck is better to fall asleep to than conversations about MHS, right? So, without further ado, let us start. We're going in recruitment order here, and there's some weirdness down here with this tier list has each instance of Felicia joining your team. So the prologue that goes with all three routes is accounted for here, but we don't really care about that. We're gonna talk about each of these characters' performance in Conquest itself, which is, by golly, pretty hard. I had a rough time of it. I feel like I could have played better in retrospect, but I finished it. I had some heavy losses. I'm not the greatest player. I was playing on normal, lost 8 characters but still was resetting a lot for other deaths. I wasn't Iron Manning or anything. But yeah, so this is a normal get you through the game, kind of not casual. I know use Jagans or whatever, but it's nothing it's not like LTC or anything. So yeah, starting off we have Corrin, and Corrin is interesting. I definitely haven't played around with reclassing in this game as much as Awakening. Really, Awakening is the only game I've ever really bothered getting even the slightest bit creative with reclassing in, because I just see a character designed so obviously to be the one thing, and I don't want to change them because it'd be weird. But I feel like you could do a lot with Corrin through marriage and picking the gender, obviously. But I think just as a unit, casually, if you're just gonna play it as yourself, Corrin is high A, low S. I actually, because of who I paired mine with, wasn't using him nearly enough and had to kind of rush feed him a bit towards the end so he could fight some of the final bosses since he has the effective weaponry. But overall, Corrin's biggest problem is that he's footlocked, but aside from that, he's got he'll double thing. Corrin's interesting because he has the whole dichotomy of Dragon Stones versus the Yato, where you can have the Yato equipped, where you'll probably double enemies and kill them, and you're pretty much you're guaranteed to hit usually. But you're less defensive, you're a little bit squishier, you might go down if you face too many enemies, whereas you can equip him with the Dragon Stone or the Dragon Stone Plus later in the game, and raise your defense a lot and make it so he can kind of bulk up and take a lot of hits, but he only attacks once usually, and doesn't kill usually because he's not doubling. So it's there's an interesting dichotomy to play with there. He's pretty interesting. I think as a character, I would love to see more mixed swords and Legoose type characters, because I know we have Keaton here, who's technically the Legoose, but I think it's interesting when you have the dichotomy of the stat buffing weapon versus the non-one. It's interesting. But yeah, the biggest thing with Corrin is that he's in a game where just the whole cast is is mounted by the end, and he's not. And unless you pair him with somebody who is mounted, if you're female, you can pair him with Gunter, I guess, because you want to get the kids. I guess I don't really use this tier list is not going to include the kids, because you can do, if you're getting the kids, you're grinding them, and if you're grinding them, you can do whatever you want with them. But Corrin, its movement is the big thing keeping them from being hardcore S. It's just they aren't able to get where they need to guaranteed, or you need to spend a turn pairing them up and switching to get them places with a unit that has more move. So Gunther or maybe Silas could be good picks for that. I mean, you can Conquest things that you're not actually related to the siblings, so I think you can marry them. So you could go with male Camilla or male Elise if you're a creepo weirdo. But yeah, movement is Corian's biggest thing. Oh yeah, no 2 range. I mean, he gets tomes when he reclasses, or when he promotes, but you're really gonna grind up tomes on Corian, who's already like not got the greatest magic growth. Like mine had like 2/3 of the magic. I don't know all the growths of these characters by heart, by the way. I might look up some of them quickly, just for curiosity's sake. But yeah, Corian, I think high A, 2 range and movement are the issues here. Felicia, in my heart, is an S. She's, from a character perspective, she's so fun to just have on your team. She has amazing voice lines. It's just she has a good unit feel to cop some more words from Professor Bopper there. But I think I'm gonna put her in B. Early game Conquest is really interesting to me because it feels so designed for the cast you get. It's so small and impeccable, and Felicia helps a lot because if I recall, she always comes with more movement than Corian. She does at least by end game, so that's why I paired her with my Corian. She and Jacob. Jacob is the equivalent you get with the female avatar. I assume they're more or less analogous. I've never played female avatar, but she has skills specifically to buff the avatar Corian. She's definitely supposed to be played with Corian. She's got 2 range with the knives and debuffs with the knives that help at the beginning with a bit of debuffing, a bit of 2 range here and there. She's mostly there for support until you do chapter 12, 13, 14, the one with the pots, and you beat Kagero in Sizer there, and you get the Flame Shuriken. And from there, you get to make use of her great magic growth, which has probably been leveled up at least a little bit by now, because she's you have the start of chapter 7, like it's just her and Corian. So yeah, her magic growth is pretty good. Her growths are kind of shaky overall, but her magic growth is pretty good, and that's a magic weapon, which means that she does way more damage with it. And just as in general, like since shurikens are effective against tomes anyway, she's a total mage killer. Mid-game, less so. Late game, I find that her damage was falling off a bit, but mid-game, I could just be like, all right, Felicia, check any mage. Like, that's part of the reason why I didn't level up Corian that much, because I was too busy using her, who had more movement than him and 2 range, to just quick check a mage who I was scared of or anything. Like, she would take no damage. She would have like 30% chance to be hit by them. Like, she has a niche, and she also is a healer, and she gets the skill that lets her heal herself when she's healing somebody else, so she can be both a frontline person and a healer. So she's really versatile. She's a really good utility unit, but I feel like she's not S or even A. Like, she's not like WoW really powerful. She's one of my favorite characters in the game, and it hurts me to put her in B, but I think B is the place for her. Gunter is the typical Jagan for this game, except that he has a weird sort of thing. I'm gonna put him in C. You get him in like chapter 3 of the prologue, and he's there for that, and then he falls off a bridge and doesn't come back until the chapter where it's just Corian, Azura, and Gunter in like the spirit world, and then from there on he's like, I'm not dead, I'm part of your team. If he was in the game, he'd be like, for the majority of it, he'd be way higher, but he is just, because of that availability problem, he's just not really useful. Because he hasn't been leveling up, even though he's a Jig and he becomes pretty powerful. He's good for that one chapter you get him for, but like, or did you get him for chapter 2 too, don't you? Or do you get Kaze and the orange girl, the cat girl, not Ryoma, Rinoka, right? You don't get him for that chapter, so he's just in chapter 3 until like whenever the Deep Realm chapter is. So yeah, the availability problem is the big thing for him, because by the time he comes back, you have like Xander and Leo and all these mounted units who have the good move, who have power, and he just doesn't really have a spot on your team anymore, especially because they probably have their supports maxed out by then. So it's just like, oh, well, I could grind up for another Great Knight, but like you can go FE Great Knight and like be winning the game at that point. So who even cares? Yeah, the availability problem with Gunter is the biggest thing. Yeah, I admittedly haven't touched them that much. Somebody could talk in the comments and prove me wrong, but I think he's gonna sit there and see. Silas, okay. Like, this is another early game. You get him in chapter 7 along with Elise's boys. We'll go with B for now. He's a cavalier, which means he has high movement, which is nice. He's a tad squishy, and like his damage doesn't really catch up. I wonder if that's because I had him paired with FE, who, spoiler alert, is is up there. And I was having him mostly ferry her around. That was a great combo, by the way, because before FE became a great knight via promotion, she couldn't move very far because she's a knight. And Silas would be like the ferry around, and he could take a turn of damage. He could separate from her so they could do like a double attack on the guy. Like he's pretty versatile. He's pretty good early game. You just get a lot of other mounted units in Conquest, so like he falls off a bit. I mostly had him as a para bot at the end. You know, just like give Effie the great shields, and give him the stat boosts. But I think with the constraints of early Conquest, like Chapter 10, like I had the whole thing planned out, man. I would have him ferry Effie down to the 1 tile wide choke point. They block that. Niles to go do the ballista. Like the early game of Conquest is designed for you to pretty much use all your units. So like, I almost feel like you shouldn't be able to lose them there. It's weird. But yeah, Silas is a pretty decent unit the whole way through. Like I wouldn't scoff at you using him, but I don't think you could trust him to do anything that dangerous. Right. So Elise is an interesting character. I'm gonna put her in A below Corrin. She starts as your only healer aside from Felicia, but you would think, oh well, she can attack, so she's probably worse than Felicia, right? Well, no, because she makes up for that by being a mounted healer, which is like, oh, she can get more places more easily. She comes with freeze too for like enemies you don't want to, like flyers in Chapter 10 who are gunning for you, or like she comes with her own set of skills that make her unique. And not to mention that if you're being a smart Fire Emblem gamer boy and healing at basically every opportunity, she's going to get a lot of experience and level up, and her magic growth is really good. So by the time that she hits level, I think I either did level 10 or 15. I might have done 15 because I just had the time because she's leveling up so much. Like when she promotes, her magic will have like low key skyrocketed like beneath the covers, and she had like 32 in magic when I was done with the game. Like she's pretty busted. She's still really squishy. You might Seraph robe her. She's a pretty good candidate for that. I Seraph robed like Nyx, and then Camilla at the end. So like I could see an argument for not doing that with Nyx and doing it for her instead. But yeah, so she has good damage, but she's pretty squishy, so it's better if you have her pick off from 2H in the back, which is where you want to be anyway, because she's also mostly a healer. But yeah, like as a royal, she's pretty good. The rule of thumb here is that fucking the nobility and like a couple commoners are the good units you want to use. Yeah, Effie was next. Effie is bonkers, dude. She comes as her only weakness is that she comes as a knight, but Conquest at the beginning is so tight with its maps. Like you have the Chapter 7, which is a pitchfork shape without the staff. It's like 3. It's like the letter E, but it's the number 3. And you're in like the center of the 3. You can just have Effie tank one of the branches of the 3, and then have like Corrin and Felicia do the other one, and then like have Arthur and Silas maybe scream at the top or something. Like Effie's gonna get experience. Like Conquest is so tight at the beginning, like she's gonna get experience, and she's so strong and defensive and useful that like nothing's gonna kill her, and she's gonna kill everything that comes in contact with her. So like she's fine. She's one of you're never gonna be afraid of Effie's capability. Like she's so good that you want to take her places. Like she is the nuke. You just have to learn how to transport her. That's why you give her to Silas or something, her growths in like all of her stats are incredible, basically, like strength, defense, and speed. Like she was pretty consistently doubling with the Iron Lance. Faith is weird because like you don't really upgrade weapons as much as you normally do, because silver weapons like lower your stats after using them, and then like steel weapons having the movement penalty or the speed penalty is pretty par for the course, but like you don't really use the high level weapons. And like also like I wasn't maxing out weapon levels at all in this game. Like I was like still at like B's, which felt weird because I couldn't use any of the legendary weapons they were giving me at the end. But like most of the royals come with legendary weapons anyway, so like, who cares? Yeah, Effie like just totally bonkers, amazing. Like she was low-key doing 50 to common enemies. 50 damage to common enemies at the end of the game, like with strength, not magic. Like that's like Athos shit, dude. Effie's incredible, and she can promote into Great Knight and get 6 movement. And or is it 6 or 7? I don't know. It's high. It's good movement. And then you just have Silas like have her support her, and then like she curb stomps everything. She killed Ryoma for me, no problem. Like she is so good. God, she is literally incredible. She's like, she's almost the Jagan. Like, I have nothing bad to say about Effie. I could trust her with any situation. Like, no joke. Like in the last chapter, she got down to 14 health because I didn't know how to properly block Takumi's Mungus Blast. And the Risen that were coming after her were all doing 0 damage to her anyway, so I just left her at 14 health for like 3 turns. It was totally fine. She is ridiculously good, and I love her personality. She's just fucking. She's training. She's eating. She has that husky voice. It's like the cute imperfection. It's like we love Effie. Effie's great. Why is her like all of her art like her super skinny? Like just make her chunky, man. She's a chunky knight. That's her personality. All right. Arthur's pretty bad, but I want to save D for the really bad units. Because he comes early, Arthur has utility, and being your only axe user, he can deal decent damage. You know, you have the whole, like, Conquest is pretty tight at the beginning, maps are pretty small, you have room to use all your units to gang up on guys and deal damage. But Arthur's just, like, really unreliable. His whole thing is that he's, like, super unlucky, so, like, he has a low luck stat, like, growths, and, like, he doesn't really, like, hit things ever. Like, he comes with a hand axe, which is pretty good. Like, you can have him, like, you know, hand axe at 2 inch if you need it. But Conquest is not a very enemy phase game until, like, the very end, basically. At that point, you have better options for enemy phasing with 1-2 range than Arthur. Yeah, he's just unreliable. He doesn't hit much. I like the idea of the character, but, like, he just doesn't cut it. Like, 90% of my so I have a weird history with this game. I was super excited for it because I was like, I'm a hardcore Fire Emblem gamer after playing Awakening on casual and then almost beating FE7. I got to the last chapter and couldn't beat it. But I like, you know, I got into the community. I knew all the big secrets, like, don't use Jagans, guys. But I think, and like I was resetting a lot because I didn't take things in stride back then. I took FE8 in stride when I played it at first. I was like, I'm an Iron Man, so I get frustrated, and then I'm gonna go from there. And I have been resetting some of the other games I've been revisiting now. Like I replay FE7. And, you know, reset if I needed, like, Marcus to be alive or whatever. And I reset this game pretty often. The LR start is a godsend. But, yeah, most of the resets were because of Arthur, probably, in the early game. Because he just misses, things you need him to hit. He's like, he has decent HP, I guess, but, like, he's just not cutting it. You can't trust him. He's not cutting it when you need it. Like, trust is a big thing in these games. Like, you need to expect or know that a unit you put in the line of fire isn't going to get totally royally butt-fucked unless you want to calculate literally everything that can happen to them in that turn. Like, yeah, sure, you can do it if you're tassing or whatever. Like I generally know that Effie's not going to take damage from things, so I'd rather put her out there than Arthur, you know? Like, trust is the biggest thing. I trust Effie to do things. I don't trust Arthur. Arthur just does not hit, and that's the biggest issue. Alright, next up we have Mozu, and, like, has anyone ever used Mozu in Conquest? I feel like she's better in Birthright because you have grinding, but, like, Mozu comes at level 1. The thing is, she's like, let me look at her growth. Christ, dude, that's so bad. So the thing with, like, Donald in Awakening is that with Aptitude, he has, like, 110 HP and, like, overhitting and everything else, but Mozu is, like some 40s. Like, she's not even that good, growth-wise. And the thing about Conquest is that it's designed around the deployment slots are designed around what they expect you to have, and they don't expect you to have Mozu, basically. So you basically just don't get her. The opportunity cost of using Mozu is taking out somebody else who is probably stronger than her. Like, in the early game, I'd rather have. You could argue maybe Arthur is worth the replacement, but, like, just. God, she's so weak, and you have to take out somebody you have to take somebody out of your party to use her, and it's like, why would I do that? Because she's weak and she needs to grow, and she might not even grow that much because her growths aren't anywhere near as godlike as, like, Donald's are. So, like, what is the draw here, guys? What do you want me to use Mozu for? She's probably more accurate than Arthur, but she's not going to do the damage you need probably because she's level 1. I just do her recruitment chapter for the experience, and just leave her and bench her for the entire game. Like, she's not in her element here. She's the Amelia of this game. She's not in her element here because she's a growth grindy training unit that doesn't come early enough, that doesn't have the deployment slots available, that has bad opportunity cost. Like, it's just like, yeah, you can't use Mozu. Like, just like, she doesn't come with any cool weapons or anything. Like, God, come on, you should have like given her like a javelin so you can get one earlier or something. Come on. Yeah, Mosey was just not great. Okay, Niles. Niles is technically your thief. He's an Alp on this game. So that gives him some good utility. There's reason to use him. Though you're gonna have the space for him because Conquest is pretty designed around your whole army at the beginning. I love the ballista in chapter 10. Chapter 10 is so good, y'all. It's the best chapter in like this whole game. But the ballista in that chapter is like it's just designed for him to pick off people from the back and feel really powerful doing it. Him and Nyx with the flame orb, and like that's like it's like really it's just that whole chapter's designed so perfectly for everybody to have a role. But like Niles picks off units at 2 range. He's pretty good at early game. His damage falls off hard like once you start invading Hashido, I think. And unless you're gonna pair him with like Camilla, he's probably not gonna end up with somebody great. So I had him paired with Nyx, so he was like he was better of the two, and he can promote into Bow Knight and get a horse, which is better for picking things off with if you have more movement options to do it with. But aside from the Locktouch utility, like he's not that exceptional late game. Early game, when you have him, he's pretty good. So yeah, I'd say top of C tier, he's fine. Unlike fine, Odin Dark is one of the worst units I've ever experienced in a Fire Emblem game. It's not even like Mosey where it's like, oh, she might become good. Like the whole story is that she might become good if you take a chance on her. Odin is just fucking trash. So if you don't know, the lore behind Odin, Laszlo, and Selena is that they're awakening characters who have been written into the porn magazine by Anigio, if you go by the copy pasta. So Odin retains his gropes from when he was Owain in Awakening, the sword guy, the Meridian Swordmaster. That means that he is like a 35 growth in magic. So he doesn't come back with that great magic, and he never gets any more. So like he doesn't do the damage you need. He doubles, I guess. He has a kind of interesting personal skill where like if you forge a weapon and name it something, he'll do bonus damage with it. But the thing is that like in Conquest, to forge a weapon, you have to choose the same weapon, and he comes with like fire and thunder, which you don't get another one. He comes with fire, and Nyx has thunder, and you don't get fire again like until you have to buy it. And it's like, why would I buy something for Odin Dark who just doesn't kill, and who is super squishy, and it's just the absolute worst. Like I benched this man as soon as I could. He's so bad. I think I let him die actually. He's just garbage. Do not use this man. All right, I'm gonna get some hot takes. Azura is the dancer. S rank, right? Well, I have a bit of a different opinion on dancers than most of the community. I'm gonna put her below Niles. Dancers are usually, as in the community, Herald is really good because it lets you do something twice, right? You can have Xander go pick up another guy. You can have Effie go kill another guy. You can have Felicia heal somebody again, and that is appreciated when it can be applied. The thing is that it can't always be applied because dancers usually have pretty low movement. Azura's is fine, but in a game where most of the units at the end are mounted, she can't keep up. So like you have to slow down to let her dance for you, right? So like it's the same as armor knights. You have to slow down your whole army around them if you want to train them, right? But for some reason they get the pass because they're dancers and LTC uses them or whatever. Like the Conquest is pretty good at the beginning of being tight, like I said a bunch of times. So like in chapter 10, I had her in the center next to Elise who was healing, and she could have Elise heal somebody twice. She could have somebody fire orb twice for like spread damage. She could have Silas and Effie attack again. Like she's good at the beginning, but I feel like at the end she would definitely fall off. The things she died at the very end of my chapter 10 attempt. And I was like, you know what? It's a dancer. It's Azura. Her offense isn't that great. She's squishy. She's not going to take hits. And you have to play on dancers so much that like it's not really worth it. Because like a dancer is a deployment slot. And what if instead of having dancers so that you might be able to have one of your good units attack again, why not just have another good unit there who can attack again anyway? Who can attack on their own turn anyway? Like it's just like dancers. They're only really good with LTC like war strat stuff. Like they're just like. You have to be like a mega genius, a mega LTC only player to really, really make a dancer worth it. You know, like she's only okay. I've heard her strength growth is okay, which is surprising. Like she can do some good damage towards the end, but I'll believe it when I see it. All right, Nyx. Nyx. Do I put her below? I'm gonna put her below Azura and Gunter, because Azura and Gunter are force deployed in that one Deep Road chapter where it's just them and the Avatar, which makes them more useful than Nyx. Nyx is like better than Odin, I guess. She has decent magic. She comes with thunder instead of fire. She hits more. She has better magic growth, but she's so squishy and her damage just doesn't keep up by the end game that like she's just like she was there because I needed to fill the deployment slots. Like she was just a hassle more than a help. She's like she can hit people over walls in her joining chapter. Yeah, that's about it. Like she's just like she doesn't kill, and she like you just don't get good mages in this game. Like she doesn't kill, and she doesn't survive hits, so she's just kind of C tier. Like she's and her personality sucks too. She's like a lolly, but instead of being like 8,000, she's just 80. So she's like a saddle woman who's like trapped in like a 16-year-old's body. It's the worst. She looks like that. She's wearing a fucking like Bayonetta bikini, so you have to like explain to your parents why fucking there's child porn on your DS. It's just like why did they put her in the game, man? Right, now we have the chapter 10 boys, starting with Camilla, who is just incredible. I was like, oh, Camilla is just, when I was playing this game as a kid, I was like, oh, Camilla is just, there to be eye-candy, but she's secretly terrible to punish the player. But no, Camilla's just fucking amazing. She has pretty good growths, like, she's a mounted flyer, so she can get really far, go over terrain. She comes with a steel axe and a thunder. The thunder actually comes in pretty useful towards the late game, because she gets pretty decent magic growths, because you're going to be using her. And that like lets her pick off some more like enemies with less res, like axe users. She's mostly going to be using the steel axe and doubling with it. She's just incredible. She's super bulky. Her bulk falls off a little bit compared to some of the other royals towards the end, but like you can Seraph rope her or something. Like I did that. Like it was pretty worth it. She will do what you need her to do. She's the first really good unit, really good pre-promote you get that is just a check for any situation you need. Just have her stick a guy on it. Like she's a little bit less accurate than Xander or Leo might be, but she is just amazing. She's incredible. Yeah. Her writing is fucking terrible though. She's just like, yeah, I'm in love with my brother. God. All right. Baruka, unfortunately, comes in the same chapter as Camilla. I mean, she's a flyer. She helps in chapter 10, but like I struggle to come up with a reason to use her over Camilla, because like even if she grows, like she'll grow to become as good as Camilla, and you could have just used Camilla in the chapters, like she's better than Nyx definitely, and I guess she's better. I'll put her under Azura and Gunter, because like they're force deployed, the dance of utility versus like having her niche totally filled in by Camilla anyway. Like Baruka just like is overshadowed. Why did they give her to you in the same chapter you get Camilla? That's so weird, and the game usually pretty good about game design. It's fucking weird as shit, dude. Like, why? And like personality-wise, personality-wise, she's fine. She's better than Camilla, I guess. She's just like a silent assassin type. She's whatever. Speaking of whatever, a lot of C tier units actually, like, considering what she's around, like, what about Niles and Spee, I guess, and then Severo will go here, I guess. Yeah, Severa, she's a mercenary. I've heard she and Laszlo are actually better than you think if you put time into them. The thing is, like, you have Corrin as a sword user, you have Silas as a sword user. She's footlocked. She comes kind of squishy, so it's not really worth training her, because like she doesn't get that good compared to the people you're gonna get, like the Royals. So like, she's whatever. She's basically best as a stat backpack. I had her stat backpack. Xander in my playthrough, like she's fine. Like, I mean, she gets soul, right? That's pretty good. I don't know. She's only okay. I mean, hey, you could do worse. You could be using Nyx or Arthur. Kaze is interesting. I'll put him in B, I guess. He's a ninja. He's the only ninja you get in the Nor route, because he comes with you either way, but you get him later. You get him later in Conquest than you would in Birthright. He has the unique utility of debuffing. He's pretty squishy. He's not super trustworthy. Felicia does his job of debuffing better, but another debuffer is fine. 2 range, pretty good. Pick off people from the back. He's weird that he doesn't really have a joining chapter. He comes at the end of chapter 11, I think. So he's just kind of chilling. I mean, has always felt like a holdover to me. Like, just throw them a ninja because they need one, because they don't get one because they're playing Nor. But like the whole reason I'm playing Nor is because I want to play like the hardcore medieval Gothic fantasy, which this game does really well with the bagpipes and the Gothic fucking cathedrals and everywhere. Like, it's he's just only okay. Laszlo and Perry, the bottle chapter people. Laszlo, similar story to Selena. I always forget. It's Selena in Conquest, Severa in Awakening. Laszlo is fine. He is similar story to Selena. Just stat back him. Like, any growths you give him are going to be stuck at 5-6 range. Like, it's just like overshadowed, sword locked, no 2 range. Like, they're fine. I wouldn't bat an eye at somebody using it, but like also like if you don't like have him fight a boss, and like he's just like whatever. He's the most whatever in the game probably. Perry I will put below Niles. She's a cavalier like Silas, but she comes later, so I feel like Silas has the availability advantage over her, and then Niles has the thief utility advantage over her. She, I think it does okay damage, but like you get her when you already have Silas trained up. You already have maybe even Elise promoted. I think I promoted Elise before the bottle chapter, which sucks because she's taken out of that chapter. Like you've been Elise, you have Camilla. Like you have you have great amount of units. So you don't need to use okay ones anymore. She's just kind of there. I mean, you could have her stat backpack or support bot. If she wasn't fucking a terrible person. She's a psychopath, killer, crybaby. Like, does anybody like Perry? Really? Like, she's there. She comes with a steel lance, I think, which is good. I guess you can get that FE, I guess. Like, she's whatever. Yeah, you get a lot of whatever you. This game is kind of linear when it comes to the strategies. I feel like I couldn't. Part of the reason I wanted to play, I was feeling unsatisfied when I played through this game, was because I wasn't using a lot of the characters. But now thinking about them, like most of them kind of suck, and like. It's almost like a Binding Blade situation where like you have like 4 good characters who you always use, and then like the rest are kind of just like middling who like, can help sometimes, but like kind of need their slack picked up. Yeah, we'll stay with that. Charlotte and Benny, the Uprising chapter guys. Charlotte has similar hit rates to Arthur. Her damage is going to be better than Severa and Laszlo. But she's never going to hit, but she'll have a good chance to crit if she does hit, which means that she's basically she's Russian roulette. She's like, if she hits and crits, she will kill, but the chances of that happening are like a 50 and a 30 being rolled. So it's like, well, is it worth it? She's definitely better than Arthur, definitely better than Baruka and Nyx, but we'll think about her. I had her support botting Leo for the majority of my campaign. She was the one I could use the most when I was trying to feed the weaker units, because her damage is pretty good. I also think she's a pretty interesting character, like to use character-wise, because like she's like so obviously trying to look cute to get a rich husband, but like if you want to use her because she's strong, is it unethical to like let her marry somebody? Because that's like that's how you get good stats in games, is by marriage with the boosts. But like, is it unethical to have her marry somebody who might not want her, and somebody she's not even in love with because she just wants the money because she'll help you fight? It's interesting. It's an interesting character, I think, to think about like actually using. And then Benny is just like, I'll put Benny in D tier. Like we have too many in C already. Benny is just outclassed because he's more defensive than Effie, but Effie's already like taking 0 damage anyway. So like who even cares? He comes way later. He comes with like similar weapons. Like he's just outclassed. Like, what are you gonna do, Benny? I'm sorry, man. Yeah, he seems cool. Support. I've read some of his supports. He's like the strong silent type, but he doesn't really know how to talk to people. He apparently is like a big animal person. Like his ending when I got it was like he just went and lived with the animals, which is, I respect that. You live with the animals. D for deciduous trees. There you go. Leo, finally, some more good units. I'm gonna put Leo in S. People undervalue Leo, I think. You get him. He's about as bulky as Camilla, I want to say. Maybe when they come, I think Camilla surpasses him with growths a bit. But Leo has 1-2 range. He has the Iron Sword if you really want to like pick somebody off or like set up to kill with somebody else. Brynhild, the one thing that's weird about Leo is that his personal skill is the opposite of Xander's. Xander's is if the enemy you're fighting has full health, he does more damage. Leo's is if the enemy you're fighting is already taking damage, then he'll do more damage. Which is like, okay, if Camilla has poison struck somebody and then he comes and cleans up, like that's great. But like, why would I like have somebody else like almost kill a guy and then have Leo kill him? Why can't I just have a unit that just kills from stage 1? But like he does kill from stage 1 with a lot of the game. Like he's very good. He comes pretty early. Like he's there for the majority of the game. I feel I'm not waiting for him to show up like I am with Xander. He's one of your best units. Like he's mounted. He's just really reliable. Like he is as trustworthy as Camilla or Xander. Not as much as FE though. FE is just fucking so good, dude. Like FE's like availability, strength, growths, promotion, class, like everything about FE is busted. Yeah. Keaton is the Laguz. Kind of, I think they just kind of have to have one in every game now. Is there one in Free Houses? I'm playing through 3 houses right now. There might not be actually. I mean, so far I haven't seen them online. We'll put him in B. The Beast Stone. For availability reasons, we'll put him under Silas. But yeah, the Beast Stone, playing around with what boost you want to give him. Do you want to have like the Beast Stone, which gives him more speed, or do you want to have the Beast Rune, which gives him more defense but less speed? Beast Stone pluses. He's pretty decent. He gets Rider's Bane, so he can attack mounted units, which isn't that great because you're fighting mostly like ninjas and stuff in game in this game. But it's there. It helps against Wyverns, I think, or Pegasus Knights. I think Pegasus Knights. He's pretty good. He's there. I think he's also good against the Kitsune in the Kitsune chapter, right? That was such an annoying chapter when I played this game for the first time, but it was pretty easy this round. Yeah, he's pretty decent. He comes decent. He comes same chapter as Leo, so like decent mid game availability. He's pretty good. I don't mind him. He's a good asset to your team if you need one. All right, at this point you get the other Felicia Jacob. Pretend Jacob 1 is where Felicia is, and like Jacob 2, the opposite, the same sex one is just like, well, fucking, you're better than Odin Dark, I guess, and Mozu. Maybe Benny. It's about it, but it's just availability problems. Like you just come so late, and you're a mostly early mid game unit, and like a healer towards the end, and like it's like, well, I guess if you need a healer, have him, but like. Just like, what are you here for? You're weak and I can't use you. Like, what are you gonna do? Yeah, Jacob just, I think his, if I recall correctly, Felicia's personal skill is that she reduces the amount of damage that the player takes, or the avatar takes, and then Jacob says he buffs it instead. He buffs what you dish out, which is like interesting and probably a bit different, like probably better than speedruns to be a girl. Right. If you've seen the HDQ like 2017 Fates Conquest speedrun, they read the S support between Jacob and Corin, and it's the funniest thing in the entire world, because they're hammering it up. It's funny. I'll try and find a clip of it.
You have my oath that that's not the case. It's just that.
Huh? I can't hear you when you mumble, Jacob.
I've fallen in love with you. However, it is not proper for a butler to love his mistress.
But yeah, it's just like for the second of the two that you get of the maid butler, it's just like, yeah, whatever. You're just too late. Too little, too late. Xander though, all right. Xander, better than Effie or no? I'm gonna say yeah. He, like Effie, is very defensive, slightly less defensive. He never took 0 damage when I played with him. But he was taking like 2. He took 2 to 7 from the final boss, and that was like because the final boss like was slowly lowering his stats. He doesn't always kill, but he's super accurate. He has 1-2 range. He usually doubles. Like if he doesn't kill, like you have somebody else pick him off. Usually, I'm by the time mid game conquest hits, I'm waiting for Xander to show up because he's basically the last unit in the game you get that's like really good. He's the tour de force. Is that even a term? He's like the cap off of the units basically. He is. Once he joins you on the boat, and it's just like, yeah, like he's fucking people up. He's 2 range mounted, fucking. it's a similar story for most of the royals. 2 range mounted, good available, like decent available, like just fucking. They're good. Interesting that like the tier list is like sort of pooling at the bottom with only a couple at the top. Binding Blade would be similar, which is interesting. Most of the units in this game are pretty mediocre, and then you have the really good ones, which you always use, which is like. Really, it's just that this game's map design is what saves it, and the fact that you don't get the good units for a while, so you have to use some of the worst ones, which Binding Blade does as well, but this game also doesn't have the hit rate problem unless you're talking Arthur, but which is neither here nor there. It's whatever. Next we have Shura, which is interesting because depending on where you go with him, he's a character or a boots, which is like, okay, you can boots one character you already have to get them really buffed, or you can pick Shura, who is a sniper and healer. I'm gonna put him above Silas because like healing and sniping these two, he comes with a killer bow. Like he's pretty decent. I'm actually also gonna move Felicia up here because we're flooding B and C. Felicia can be an A. That's fine. Shura is like pretty promote, lock touch, thief utility, healing. He breaks caltrops in that one ninja level. Just like a pretty decent. Like he's like he's probably not gonna support anybody quickly enough, but he's there. He'll do his job. Like he's a very decent, respectable pick. Yeah, I feel like in a game where everybody else is mounted, especially like FE is mounted by late game. Like the only unit who isn't mounted at the end is like Corrin. Like the boots aren't super necessary. Like I guess you could have. I mean, honestly, you're LTCing because you're a nerd. Yeah, and then we unfortunately kind of round out this tier list with two nobodies. Izana is here because he's the mage. These two you get through leveling up your base. Like Izana is the hot spring level 3, I think, and then Flora is fire orb level 3, which is the weirdest thing. They're just kind of too little too late. I mean, like Izana's probably, I didn't use him, but he's probably the best magic user you have, so I'll put him above Nyx and Odin, I guess. Aside from the best footlocked non-royal magic user you have. I think he comes with a decent magic tome. He's decently high level, but like it's like too little too late. You come at a weird time. If you rushed to level up the hot springs, you would get him pretty early, so maybe he'd help, but like it's just like, oh well, he's there. If you are really needing him, he's there. The thing about Awakening and Fates is that like you don't get later recruits to help you round out your army. If you lost somebody, you get the child characters, which means you can't lose people in the beginning, or else you just don't get recruits in the end game. It's like the opposite of not New Mystery, Shadow Dragon, where like you just get free units if you lose a lot. Yeah, so like Flora and Izana kind of carry that niche into the FE14, but like barely, because they're not that useful. And then Flora, same story, isn't better than Jacob or Felicia, definitely. Too little too late, another maid, can heal, I guess. Forgot you were in the game. I always think we recruit you in chapter 8. Just like, why are you here? Like, they want maid twins. That's what it is, I guess. Yeah, interesting tier list we got here. Royals at the top. I'm gonna check it. Let's see if there's anybody we should move around at first. I'm surprised. When I make tier list, A is always low because like I always have very few things in A because like S is the thing that jump out as like being really good, and B is like it's pretty good, but like it has a couple of flaws like a name, and like A is like, yeah, you have a couple of flaws maybe, but like you're pretty good, which is like harder for me to pin down, I guess. But yeah, I'm satisfied. And Shura's B material. I think this is a pretty decent tier list. Out at the bottom where he belongs. You could justify putting Benny in C, but I have somebody in C already that like it's like whatever. So yeah, that is a Fire Emblem tier list in my in my first video in a long time. I'll try and edit this pretty quickly. I'm struggling to get things recorded because of some fandub leftovers. I'm still waiting on one recording from one person before I can release some of the episodes. And that'll be coming out soon too. But yeah, until then, enjoy this low effort, fun for me, testing my recording setup content. Thank you and good night. Night breaks through the day, hard as a stone, lost in thoughts, all alone.